Hello everyone, I'm Amit Ajmani, your mentor, and I welcome you all once again to Sri Jendra Rank Zone classes. And in this lecture, we'll continue the chapter that we have started in the previous class, that is life processes. A bit of the revision. Till now, we studied about the life processes, including nutrition, respiration, transportation, and excretion. We started up with nutrition, the definition and the modes of nutrition, that is autotrophic and heterotrophic. We studied about the autotrophs and heterotrophs. We saw the differences between autotrophic and heterotrophic mode of nutrition. We talked about saprophytes, holozoic mode of nutrition, parasites, herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. We discussed in detail about the process of photosynthesis done by the autotrophs. We discussed the various conditions, the four conditions required for photosynthesis, that is the presence of carbon dioxide, presence of water, presence of sunlight, and presence of chlorophyll. The three events that occur during the process of photosynthesis. We talked about the functions of chloroplast and stomata, and this was about our nutrition in autotrophs, that is the autotrophic mode of nutrition. In today's lecture, we will be discussing about the nutrition in animals. Now, in animals, there are various steps which are involved in the process of nutrition. The first step is the intake or the ingestion of food. That is the process by which the living organisms take in the food. Now, this food consists of the complex molecules. So, therefore, the second step involved is the digestion of food, that is, the breaking of these complex substances into the simpler ones. Now, once the digestion of food takes place, the complex substances have been broken down into simpler ones. Now, the absorption of food will take place. That is the third step in the process of nutrition. The process of absorption is the passing of digested food through the intestinal walls into the blood so that it can be transported to various body parts. This process is called absorption. Now, this absorbed food is taken to the cells of the body where they will get assimilated or deposited for providing the energy or for the process of growth and repair. So, the fourth step in the process of nutrition in animals is the assimilation of the absorbed food or the nutrients. Now, whatever is not digested or whatever is not absorbed in our body, that has to be given out from the body, and that involves the process of egestion, which is also known as excretion or defecation. So these are the five steps in the process of nutrition which take place in the same sequence. Firstly, intake of food will take place, then it will be digested, then it will be absorbed, it will be assimilated, and the extra undigested and unabsorbed food will be excreted out of the body. Now, this process in which we have broken down the complex molecules, that is the digestion, it itself is of two types. One is the physical digestion, another one is the chemical digestion. Physical digestion includes the chewing and grinding of food in mouth, that is breaking the complex molecules into simpler ones physically. Whereas chemical digestion includes the addition of digestive juices or enzymes to this food in order to break them down into chemical simpler forms. So these are the two types of digestion, physical and chemical. Now let us study about how this process takes place in unicellular organisms like amoeba or paramecium. Now, amoeba, we know that the cell membrane of amoeba or the plasma membrane of amoeba is also known as pseudopodia, which means false feet. Why is it called so? Because it continuously changes its shape, due to which amoeba is able to locomote. Now, the process of amoeba involves the role played by pseudopodia. Wherever there is a food particle, this pseudopodia changes its shape in such a way in order to entrap this food particle. Now, this pseudopodia will break up and it will engulf the food particle, and the enzymes will enter this particular part which is known as food vacuole. This process is called endocytosis, by which amoeba actually engulfs its food with the help of change in shape of pseudopodia. Now the digestive enzymes will enter the food vacuole and they will digest the food. This digested food will diffuse out, because of which there will be a growth in the size of amoeba, and again with the help of change in shape of the pseudopodia, this undigested food will be thrown out. So the process of intake takes place with the help of change in shape of pseudopodia. Then the process of digestion will occur because of the digestive enzymes. Then this digestive food will be absorbed and assimilated, and the undigested food will be excreted out. Exactly the same process of nutrition occurs in this unicellular organism called paramecium, and the only difference between amoeba and paramecium is that in amoeba, because of pseudopodia, it can engulf the food from any particular place, but in case of paramecium, this food particle is engulfed from a particular opening which may be called the mouth of paramecium. And if the food particle is anywhere else, this food particle is brought to this particular opening with the help of these hair-like structures present all over the surface of paramecium called cilia. So this is how the process of nutrition, all the various steps take place in unicellular organisms. Fine. Now let us talk about the main thing, that is how this process takes place in humans. Let us talk about human digestive system. We know already the various steps involved in the process of nutrition are intake, then digestion, then absorption, then assimilation, then excretion. So let us study all these various steps of the process of nutrition in case of humans. We have a full human digestive system in our body, and that starts with mouth. From mouth, the intake or the ingestion of food takes place. Now in our mouth, we have three things. One are teeth, one is saliva, and one is the tongue. Let us see the functions of each one of them. The function of teeth is that they help to cut, tear, chew, and grind the food. So the teeth are actually playing a role in the physical digestion of food. And we know that depending upon these particular functions, we have got different pair of teeth, molar and premolar and canines, etc. Right? So teeth help in the physical digestion of food. A very important component present in mouth is saliva. Now what exactly is saliva? Saliva is a fluid which is secreted by salivary glands. These salivary glands are present in our neck. There are three pairs, that is total six salivary glands which are present in neck, which secrete this saliva. Now the function of this saliva are many. Firstly, The saliva makes the food wet so that we can easily swallow it. Very, very important function of saliva is that it contains an enzyme which is called salivary amylase, or it is also known as ptyalin. P is silent, it is read as ptyalin. Now this enzyme, salivary amylase or ptyalin, it acts on the carbohydrates and starch which is present in food, and it breaks them into simple maltose sugar. So this saliva containing the enzyme salivary amylase or ptyalin, it helps in the chemical digestion of food. So in mouth, intake of food is taking place and digestion has also started, both physical as well as chemical, right? Now another thing present in mouth is tongue. We know that tongue has got taste buds, but when it comes to digestion, the purpose of tongue is to help in churning of food so that this food is properly mixed with saliva so that the enzymes salivary amylase can act properly on the carbohydrate and starch present in food, right? Now from mouth, this food goes into our food pipe. We know that the other name of food pipe is esophagus, right? Very importantly, you need to remember that in esophagus or in food pipe, no digestion takes place. It is just to pass the food from the mouth to stomach. And how exactly this happens? It happens by a very important process called peristalsis or the peristaltic movement. Now, what exactly is peristaltis? It is the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the muscles of food pipe, due to which it allows the food to go to the stomach. Now, through this food pipe, now the food is entering our stomach. Very, very, very important part. Now, please focus on stomach. Stomach is a J-shaped organ. It is the main digestive organ in our body. Our stomach contains various digestive glands, and these digestive glands secrete various digestive juices. These juices further contain various digestive enzymes which are going to act on the food in order to help them break down into simpler forms. That is, these enzymes will cause the digestion of food. Now, the walls of the stomach secrete various things. Total four things are secreted. The first thing is pepsin. The second thing secreted by the gastric glands is gastric lipase. Third thing is dilute HCl, and the fourth thing is mucus. We need to learn the functions of each one of them. They are all very important. So let us start up with the first secretion, that is pepsin. Now this pepsin is a digestive enzyme, and this enzyme acts on the proteins which is present in food, and these digestive enzymes pepsin, they break the proteins into simpler forms which are called peptones. So the function of pepsin is to break the proteins into their simpler forms, peptones. The second secretion is gastric lipase. This gastric lipase is also a digestive enzyme, and it acts on the lipids and fats, and it breaks them into simpler forms. Third, and the very important secretion of stomach is dilute HCl. Now this HCl, hydrochloric acid, is not an enzyme. It is an acid, we know it. This acid is secreted by stomach walls and it plays a very important role. It has numerous functions. Number one function is that this HCl kills the germs and bacteria present in food. Second, very important function is that it provides an acidic medium. Why? Because this acidic medium is required for the efficient working of this enzyme pepsin. This pepsin is going to work efficiently if there is some acidic medium. So that role is played by HCl. The third function of this hydrochloric acid is to soften the food, and it also helps in stopping the action of salivary amylase which were present in saliva. So this dilute HCl plays very important role. But since this dilute HCl is an acid, so it may be harmful. So in our body, there is such a wonderful mechanism created that another secretion called mucus is secreted by the stomach walls. This mucus is a thick fluid, and the function of this mucus is that it coats the inner lining of the stomach in order to protect it from the harmful action of dilute HCl. So these are the four secretions in stomach. One is pepsin. It is a digestive enzyme. The function is to break down the proteins into simpler forms called peptones. Second one is the gastric lipase, also an enzyme which acts on lipids and fats and breaks them into simpler forms. These two are the enzymes. The rest two secretions, dilute HCl and mucus, are not enzymes. HCl has lot many functions as we have seen, killing the germs and bacteria present in food, providing acidic medium for the efficient working of pepsin, softening the food, and stopping the action of salivary amylase. And the function of mucus is to coat the inner lining of the stomach in order to protect it from HCl. Fine. So these are the things happening in stomach. Now from stomach, this food enters the next part, that is our small intestine. Once again, quite important part. You need to focus and remember lot many things here. Number one, food from stomach enters the small intestine. It is just by name called small intestine. Otherwise, it is the longest part of our alimentary canal, and it is approximately 6.5 meters long. Still, it is called small intestine. Why? Because this is coiled up in a very small area. It is highly coiled up, and that is why it is accommodated in very small area. Now, the partially digested food, the food which was partially digested in stomach, this food, when reaches the small intestine, here it is completely broken down in the simpler forms. And here only the process of absorption will take place. How? We'll see in detail. First part that we need to remember in small intestine is the duodenum part. This duodenum is the first part of small intestine. Food from the stomach enters here, and this duodenum receives two secretions, and these two secretions, they enter duodenum through common bile duct and pancreatic duct. What are these secretions and what are the functions? We need to learn. They are very important. The first secretion is bile, very important. This bile is a greenish yellow bitter liquid. This bile is secreted by liver, and it is temporarily stored in the gallbladder. Now, from the gallbladder, it will enter the duodenum through a tube, a duct called common bile duct. Now, this bile is alkaline in nature and it performs two very important functions. Number first function is that it neutralizes the acidity of food which was there due to the effect of HCl in stomach, and it makes it alkaline so that the pancreatic enzymes can act on the food. And the second main function of bile is that it helps in the emulsification of bigger fat molecules into smaller fat globules. The fat molecules which are present in our food, they are very big molecules. So big that the body enzymes cannot act on them directly. So these bigger fat molecules are first of all emulsified into smaller fat globules by this bile so that now the enzymes can act on them and can break them further into simpler forms. So bile plays these two very important roles. Number one role is the food is coming from stomach. In stomach, the food was mixed with HCl. In stomach, there was mucus which was there to prevent the stomach lining from HCl. But mucus is not present throughout the alimentary canal. So the acidic character has to be neutralized. And being alkaline in nature, this is the function of bile. So it actually removes the acidity, neutralizes it, makes it alkaline, and very importantly, emulsification of fats. So this is the first secretion which is the duodenum. The second important secretion is pancreatic juice. Now this pancreatic juice is secreted by pancreas, and this juice enters the duodenum through pancreatic duct. This pancreatic juice contains various digestive enzymes. What are those enzymes and what are their function? You have to remember. First enzyme is trypsin. Second enzyme is lipase. And the third enzyme is pancreatic amylase. These all three of them are enzymes. Now, trypsin is an enzyme which acts on proteins and the peptones and breaks them into further simpler forms called peptides. Lipase is an enzyme which acts on the emulsified fats, emulsification done by the bile. Now, after emulsification, lipase will act on them and will break them into simpler forms called fatty acids. Pancreatic amylase is again an enzyme and it further breaks down the starch and carbohydrate which was converted into maltose in the mouth by salivary amylase, and now that maltose will be further converted into simpler forms called sucrose and fructose. So these are the three enzymes: trypsin, lipase and pancreatic amylase, which will act on the various components of food in order to digest them. And all these are present in pancreatic juice. So when we talk about the secretions reaching the duodenum part, there are two secretions. One secretion is the bile and the second secretion is pancreatic juice. Both these secretions play a very important role in the process of digestion of food. Right? Now, from duodenum part, this food will reach the next part of small intestine, that is ileum. This is the second part of small intestine. This ileum secretes some digestive juices called succus entericus. These digestive juices, which are secreted in the intestinal walls, they act on the partially digested food and finally convert them into their simplest forms. The forms where no further digestion will occur. All the carbohydrate and starch which was present in food will be converted into glucose. All the proteins which were present in the food will be converted into amino acids, and the fats will be converted into fatty acids and glycerol. So, in the ileum part of small intestine, the process of digestion is finally completed. And if we try to relate what are the end products of the process of digestion, the first end product is glucose. The second end product is amino acids. The third end product is fatty acids. And the fourth one is glycerol. Very, very important. We need to remember the end products in the small intestine. And from where these end products have arrived, the glucose is the end product of the digestion of carbohydrates and starch. Amino acids are the end products of the proteins present in food. Fatty acids and glycerol are the end products of fats present in the food. So finally, the food is digested now. Finally, the process of digestion is over now. After this, now this digested food is absorbed by blood in blood capillaries. Now these blood capillaries are surrounded by villi. Now what are villi? Villi or villi, whatever you want to call it, one or the same thing. Now villi are numerous finger-like projections which are present in the walls of the ileum part of small intestine. It's a very beautiful mechanism because whatever we are eating, our body is designed in such a way that nothing should go wasted. So these villi are present. These are finger-like projections, and these villi, based on their shape and design, they provide large surface area so that maximum absorption of food may take place. All the food that we have eaten, all the food that has been digested, the maximum of it should be absorbed, and this absorption takes place through villi. Now this absorbed food will taken to all the cells of the body where it will get assimilated for later use. So in the small intestine, the process of digestion is completed, plus the process of absorption is also done, which gets assimilated. So the process of assimilation also takes place through small intestine. Right? Now, intake of food has been done through the mouth. When we talk about the process of digestion, this digestion started in mouth itself and it got completed in the ileum part of small intestine. The absorption of food takes place in ileum itself and assimilation is done by blood. Now whatever food is digested and absorbed is carried by the blood to various parts where it is required, and the unabsorbed food material that passes on to the next part of our human digestive system, and that is the large intestine. All the unabsorbed food passes here from the ileum part. Now this large intestine also has two parts, colon and rectum. Colon is the first part of large intestine. Here, water is absorbed from all the unabsorbed food material, which is now a waste for the body, but the water is still useful. So all the water is absorbed in the colon part. Now we need to relate that the process of absorption of food takes place in ileum through villi, but the absorption of water takes place in the colon part of large intestine. This is asked where exactly the food is absorbed in our human body, where is water absorbed in the human body. So food is absorbed in the ileum part of small intestine, water is absorbed in the colon part of large intestine. Now after the absorption of water, all the waste material, it becomes semi-solid. Now this semi-solid waste material is temporarily stored in the next part of large intestine, that is known as rectum. Once this rectum starts filling, and after a particular level, this rectum has rectal muscles, and those rectal muscles contract, because of which all this waste material is excreted out of the body through this anus, which is an opening. So from anus, the process of excretion takes place. This is our human digestive system. So the process of intake of food, which started from mouth going to the food pipe, from food pipe it entered the stomach, from stomach it entered the small intestine, from there the large intestine, and finally to anus. This long tube which extends from mouth to anus is called our alimentary canal. What is alimentary canal? It is a long tube extended from mouth to anus. In some organisms like grasshoppers and insects, this is also called gut, right? And this is all about our human digestive system. So let us try to once again review how exactly the process of digestion takes place in humans. Quite important, so many important questions in between, right? Let us try to revise once again. The human digestive system starts from mouth. In mouth, intake or ingestion of food takes place. We saw in mouth we have got three things: teeth, saliva, and tongue. Teeth will help in the physical digestion of food. They will cut, tear, chew, and grind the food. Saliva, a fluid which is secreted by salivary glands. How many salivary glands are present? Six. Three pairs. Where? In neck. They secrete saliva. Now this saliva makes the food wet for easy swallowing, and it contains a digestive enzyme called salivary amylase or ptyalin. The function of this salivary amylase is to break down the carbohydrate and starch present in food into simple maltose sugar. Tongue is going to churn the food so as to mix it with saliva. From the mouth, the food will enter food pipe. The other name is called esophagus. No digestion of food takes place in esophagus. Just the food is made to transport to the next part, stomach. But the important thing is that process through which it is transported to stomach is because of the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the muscles of food pipe, and those relaxation and contraction rhythms movements are called peristalsis. Stomach is the J-shaped main digestive organ of our body, and it has got four secretions: pepsin, gastric lipase, dilute HCl, and mucus. Pepsin is a digestive enzyme which will break down the proteins into further smaller parts called peptones. Gastric lipase will act on the lipids and fats to break them down into simpler forms. Dilute HCl has got numerous functions. It will kill the germs and bacteria present in the food. It will provide acidic medium for the efficient working for the enzyme pepsin to act. It will soften the food and it will stop the action of salivary amylase. Mucus is a thick fluid which coats the inner lining of stomach to protect it from the harmful effect of HCl. From stomach, the food is partially digested. It will reach the small intestine. Small intestine, 6.5 meter long, longest part of the alimentary canal, and we are concerned mainly with two parts, duodenum and ileum. There is one more part, jejunum, but in duodenum we have studied that there are two secretions. One is bile and one is pancreatic juice. Bile, a yellowish bitter greenish yellow liquid secreted by liver, quite important. Temporarily stored in gallbladder, quite important. We should know that liver is the largest gland in our body. This bile reaches the duodenum through common bile duct. Two functions performed by bile. One is to neutralize the acidity of food which was caused because of the HCl in stomach. Second important function is emulsification of bigger fat molecules into smaller fat globules so that the enzymes can further break them down. Next secretion is pancreatic juice, which is secreted by pancreas. Pancreas is the second largest gland of our body, and they reach the duodenum through pancreatic duct. Three secretions are present in pancreatic juice. One is trypsin, enzyme which will further break down proteins and peptones into peptides. Lipase, which will act on the emulsified fats and convert them into simpler forms called fatty acids. Pancreatic amylase, which will act on starch and carbohydrates, already broken down into maltose sugar into further simpler forms, fructose and sucrose. From duodenum, the food is going to reach ileum, where some intestinal juices are secreted. Enzymes are present called succus entericus, and they will break down all the partially digested food into their simplest forms. And what are the end products of the digestion of food? These are the four end products. One are glucose, second are amino acids, third are fatty acids, and fourth are glycerol. Glucose are the end products of carbohydrate and starch. Amino acids are the end products of proteins. Fatty acids and glycerol are the end products of fats. After the process of digestion is finally over, now the absorption will take place, and this absorption will take place through finger-like projections called villi, which will increase the surface area for the maximum absorption of food. All the food absorbed through the blood in blood capillaries transported to all the body parts for assimilation. All the unabsorbed food material goes to the colon part of large intestine where water is absorbed. After the absorption of water, the food becomes semi-solid. Rather, we should not use the word food but the waste. This waste is temporarily stored in rectum, and then it is excreted out from an opening called anus. So this is our human digestive system, quite long. So from now onwards, whatever you are eating, make sure that you eat the right thing, because your body, your organs, so many enzymes, they have to work so much in order to digest and absorb and utilize whatever you are eating. We already discussed that liver is the largest gland of the body and pancreas is the second largest gland of our body. Now there are certain things which are very important in our human digestive system. Let us try to first of all see the diagrammatic representation of our human digestive system. This is the mouth from where intake of food take place. We have the buccal cavity. In the neck we have these salivary glands which will secrete saliva, and we have got tongue. From the mouth, this food enters the food pipe or the esophagus, and it will enter this J-shaped organ which is called stomach. Now we have got liver. This is the largest gland which will secrete bile. This bile is temporarily stored in this part, that is gallbladder. Then we have got this leaf-like structure, which are the second largest gland, pancreas, right? In stomach, we have seen the four secretions, that is the mucus, dilute HCl, pepsin, and gastric lipase. From stomach, the food goes into this highly coiled up structure, that is our small intestine. And in this small intestine, we have got two secretions, one coming from the common bile duct through gallbladder, that is the bile, and from the pancreatic duct, that is pancreatic juice. It also adds up. Small intestine, highly coiled up structure. Here the process of digestion absorption takes place. From there it reaches the colon part, the large intestine, colon part. From this colon part, we have got actually various details. This is the ascending colon, transverse colon, and the descending colon, right? After absorption of water, now the food will be temporarily stored in this part called rectum, and it will be thrown out, egested out, defecated from this opening called anus. So this is our human digestive system diagrammatic representation. Now I was telling you there are so many important things in our human digestive system, or rather related to the digestive system. Number one, we are asked that how is our small intestine designed to absorb digested food? Now, small intestine has various important adaptations. We have just seen that it is the longest part of human alimentary canal, approximately 6.5 meters in length. Now, it is highly coiled up. It is accommodated in a very small space. Why? Why is it so long? Because we know that in small intestine, the process of complete digestion is going to occur. And side by side, absorption is also going to take place. So, this great length of small intestine provides large area for the major digestion and absorption of food. The second adaptation in small intestine is that it contains numerous folds having numerous finger-like projections called villi. And we have already studied that these villi provide large surface area for the maximum absorption of food. Third very important thing in small intestine is that small intestine is rich in blood supply. This blood supply ensures that all the digested food is absorbed and it is transported to all the body cells. So these are all the various ways in which our small intestine is specially designed in order to absorb the digested food. Next important question that comes is, how are fats digested in our bodies and where does this process take place? Now fats, we know that they are big molecules. So first of all, these fats are acted upon by bile, which will emulsify these fats into simpler fat globules. After these fat molecules have been emulsified, then the lipase will act on these fat globules and breaks them into further smaller fatty acids and glycerol. And where exactly is this process taking place? This process takes place in the duodenum part of small intestine, right? Now another important question is, where in human alimentary canal is absorption of food and water takes place? We have seen that the absorption of food takes place in the ileum part of small intestine, whereas the absorption of water takes place in the colon part of large intestine. Clear? Now, one important thing to remember is that the herbivores they have longer small intestine as compared to the carnivores. Why so? The reason is that we know that herbivores they eat grass, and that grass contains cellulose. That is why they need a longer small intestine so that this cellulose may be digested. The carnivores they eat meat which is quite easy to digest. Therefore, the carnivores have a shorter small intestine, right? Next question is, why are fats needed to be converted into smaller globules? Or why is in the function of bile so important? It is so because the fats are very big molecules, because of which they cannot be directly acted upon by the enzymes which are present in our body. So that is why they are firstly emulsified into smaller globules. Now the enzymes in our body can easily act upon them and further break them down into simpler forms, that is fatty acids and glycerol. Fine. Now one very important another thing is, what are the various differences between pepsin and trypsin? First of all, let us talk about the similarities. Pepsin and trypsin both are enzymes. Pepsin and trypsin, they both act on proteins and break them into simpler forms. So these are the two similarities. What exactly are the differences between them? Pepsin is a component of gastric juice and it is active in stomach, whereas trypsin is a component of pancreatic juice and it is active in the duodenum part of the small intestine. Another very important difference is that pepsin requires an acidic medium for its efficient working, and this acidic medium is provided to pepsin by the HCl secreted in stomach, whereas trypsin requires an alkaline medium for its efficient functioning, and that alkaline medium is provided to trypsin by bile juice. So these are a few differences between pepsin and trypsin, and this is all about our human digestive system. Very, very important how the processes of nutrition takes place in humans. Fine. Just to recall whatever we have studied in today's lecture, we talked about the various steps in the process of nutrition. The various steps taking place in the process of nutrition in animals are mainly 5 steps. Intake of food will take place, then digestion of food will occur, then absorption will occur, then the assimilation of food will take place, and excretion. Then we studied the process of nutrition in unicellular organisms like amoeba and paramecium. Then we studied about the human digestive system, which is quite important, containing all the details right from the mouth till the anus. We need to remember each and every part where the food is going and how exactly all the various parts in our digestive system, like the mouth or the food pipe or the stomach or the small intestine or the large intestine, how exactly they play their role, what are the various secretions, and what is the function performed by those secretions. As far as the whole secretions are concerned, we may be asked the various secretions of stomach, which were total 4 secretions. We have seen one was pepsin, another gastric lipase, another was dilute HCl, and mucus. Then talking about the secretions entering the small intestine, we had the bile and we had pancreatic juice. related to bile secreted by liver, temporarily stored in gallbladder, reaching the duodenum path through common bile duct. Functions alkaline medium and emulsification of fats. Pancreatic juice secreted by pancreas and reaching the duodenum through pancreatic duct, further containing three enzymes: trypsin, then pancreatic amylase and lipase. Trypsin acting on proteins, converting them into peptides. Pancreatic amylase acting on maltose sugar, converting them into sucrose and fructose. Lipase acting on the emulsified fats, converting them into fatty acids. So these are quite important. Another enzyme present in mouth is the salivary amylase or the ptyalin, breaking down the carbohydrate starch into simple maltose sugar. So if we talk about the various enzymes present in our body, salivary amylase is an enzyme, pepsin is an enzyme, gastric lipase is an enzyme, and trypsin, pancreatic amylase, and lipase. Bile is not an enzyme. HCl is not an enzyme. Mucus is not an enzyme. We need to relate that. Fine. So let's end up the topic here only, because we have done so many things today, and I think you will be requiring some time just learning each and every detail. So please make sure that you learn up the human digestive system and all the details regarding it. Clear? So we'll meet you in the next lecture with the next topic. Till then, keep happy, remain healthy, try to take care of yourself, and study well.